Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the September 8th, 2020 Clovis City Council meeting. Given the current shelter-in-place order covering the state of California and the social distancing guidelines issued by the federal, state, and local authorities, the city is implementing changes to participate in council meetings. The council chambers will be open to the public, but we will be implementing social distancing policies and will limit the number of people who may be in the council chambers. The meeting will be webcast and accessed at the address listed. Members of the public are encouraged to participate in meetings by accessing the webcast at the link listed, providing written comment at the same website, participating by phone, or coming to city council chambers in person where we are practicing socially distancing for a maximum of 16 people at one time. Before I call the meeting to order, I just want to make a quick comment for people who maybe won't be staying for the entire meeting or listening at home for the entire meeting. The citizens of Clovis are asked to join everyone in their thoughts and prayers for the Creek Fire victims, people who have lost their homes, people who don't know yet. We also ask for prayers for our first responders, our Clovis firemen that are on scene, for the firefighters of state and other agencies, for our military pilots that are coming and rescuing people in medevacs, our friends at the Forest Service, law enforcement, and all the support that goes along with the people who fight the fires. We'd also like to thank some of our local organizations that have really stepped up, like the Rodeo Association, have stepped up to help people with their livestock and their larger animals. Clovis Hills Church has done an excellent job in helping people who have been evacuated, and Clovis Unified School District has stepped up and opened up Clovis North and are using that as an evacuation center. It's nice in a community and in a region where we all step up for each other. These are extraordinary times, and the work isn't over yet. So if there are things that we can all do, we should try to do them, but keep these people in our thoughts and our prayers. I'd also like to make a special mention to keep the family of Nick Frazier in your thoughts and prayers. So I will open this meeting, call the meeting to order, and ask Councilmember Ashbeck to lead us in the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Lynn. If the clerk would call roll, please.
Councilmember Ashbeck. Here. Councilmember Flores. Here. Councilmember Moanachua.
Here.
Councilmember Whalen.
Here.
Mayor Bessinger.
Here. Now we come to the public comments portion of the meeting. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the City Council on any matter within the city's jurisdiction that is not listed on the agenda. In order for everyone to be heard, please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less, or 10 minutes per topic. Anyone wishing to be placed on the agenda for a specific topic should contact the city manager's office and submit correspondence at least 10 days before the desired date of appearance. Is there anyone in the council chambers who wishes to address the council on any item that is not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, do we have anyone on the web that is wishing to make comments or on the phone?
None.
And Mr. Clerk, do we have any public comments that were sent in via email?
Mayor, I'm in receipt of one comment that is on the screen before the City Council from resident Rachel Yodelman regarding an exchange between Councilmember Flores and Ashbeck at the end of the August 3rd meeting.
Thank you. We'll just take it, and this is part of our packet. That is correct?
It is.
Okay. Are there any other comments that are being made?
No.
Okay, I will close public comments. And in regards to ordinances and resolutions.
Can I just say one thing
Yes.
about that comment? So, I just want to comment that Joe and I have had a chance to talk, and we've, offered apologies to one another, and I think we're good. So, lessons learned, and so just wanted to note that. So to Rachel, if you're listening, we got this. Thanks.
Thank you, Lynn. In regards to ordinances and resolutions, with respect to the approval of resolutions and ordinances, the reading of the title shall be deemed a motion to waive a reading of the complete resolution or ordinance, and unless there is a request by a council member that the resolution or ordinance be read in full, further reading of the resolution or ordinance shall be deemed waived by the unanimous consent of the council. Now we come to the consent calendar. Items considered routine in nature are to be placed on the consent calendar. They will all be considered and voted upon in one vote as one item, unless a council member requests individual consideration. A council member's vote in favor of the consent calendar is considered and recorded as a separate affirmative vote in favor of each action listed. Motions in favor of adoption of the consent calendar are deemed to include a motion to waive the reading of any ordinance or resolution on the consent calendar. For adoption of ordinances, only those that have received a unanimous vote upon introduction are considered consent items. Any member of the council wish to have a consent calendar item removed? Seeing none. Any member of the public wish to have a item on the consent calendar removed? Seeing none in chambers. Do we have anybody on the web?
None.
And Mr. Clerk, we got no, we didn't receive any other items via email?
We do not.
Okay. I will entertain a motion on the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Now we come to the public hearings portion of the meeting. Public hearing is an open consideration within a regular or special meeting of the City Council for which special notice has been given and may be required. When a public hearing is continued, notice of the adjourned item is required as per Government Code 54955.1. Item 15 is consider approval of various actions required to conduct a March 2021 general election. Item A is consider approval of a resolution calling the March 2nd, 2021 General Municipal Election for the purposes of electing 2 council members of the City Council for a term of 3 years and 8 months through November 2024. And consider approval of a resolution establishing conditions for the filing of candidate statements, and consider approval of a resolution authorizing the Fresno County Elections Division to conduct the election. Staff on this is Carrie Cha. Carrie.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Council. Staff is recommending Council to consider approval of the aforementioned actions which are required to conduct the March 2021 General Municipal Election. The election will be held on March 2nd, 2021. The nomination period will be open from November 9th through December 4th. And the 2 offices that will be up for election are for Council members Ashbeck and Montour, each for a term of 3 years and 8 months. In previous elections, the Council had established the conditions for filing of candidate statements to a limit of 200 words, provided that the candidates pay the cost of the printing. If Council should approve this resolution, the conditions will remain the same. Since the Fresno County Elections Division received the RFP award to conduct the election back in 2017, they have conducted the 2019, 2017, and 2009 elections without incident. The Elections Division is also the Register of Voters in Fresno County and is well-versed and very capable of managing the election. Therefore, staff is recommending Council to authorize the Fresno County Elections Division to conduct our election again. As a reminder, the March 2021 election will be our last election held in an odd-numbered year. Starting in 2022, our general municipal election will be held on the same date as the statewide election to comply with Senate Bill 415. Again, staff is recommending council to approve the 3 resolutions presented this evening to proceed with conducting the March 2021 election. This concludes my report, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Any member of council have a question for staff on this item? Lynn.
Just one. I think over the years we've really narrowed down there isn't anyone else that conducts these voting processes as effectively as Fresno County, right?
That's correct. There was a firm down in LA, Martin Chapman, that did quite a few because LA was just too big to be able to do it. They've since gone out of business because of Senate Bill 415 because they reduced the number of elections they could support.
Thanks.
Any other questions for staff from council? Seeing none, I open this to the public. Any member of the public in chambers wish to address council on this item? Seeing none, anybody on the web?
There are none.
Mr. Clerk, do we have any comments from the public via email?
No.
Okay, I will close public comments and come back to council for action or conversation on this. Bob.
Thank you. Mayor, I'm just going to go ahead and move that we approve the resolution calling the March 2nd, 2021 General Municipal Election for the purpose of electing 2 members of the City Council for the term of 3 years and 8 months through November 2024.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Was there any comments? I just want to invite comments before we do this.
Just for clarity, Bob, is that motion then the B and the C also, or are you going to make separate motions for B and C?
I was intending to make separate motions for B and C.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
If I may, Mayor, then I move that we approve the resolution establishing the conditions for the filing of candidate statements.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
And Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the resolution authorizing the Fresno County Elections Division to conduct the election.
I'll second that motion. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Bob. Item 16, consider actions related to annexation of territory, annexation number 63, current APN 558-020-05, lot line adjustment, parcel B, PME 2020-004, northwest corner of DeWolf and Harlan Ranch Boulevard to the City of Clovis, Community Facilities District, 2004-1, Police and Fire Services. First item is consider approval of a resolution annexing territory, annexation number 63, current APN 558-020-05, lot line adjustment, parcel B, PME 2020-04, northwest corner of DeWolf and Harlan Ranch Boulevard to the City of Clovis Community Facilities District, number 2004-1, Police and Fire Services, and calling a special landowner election to annex territory, annexation 63, to the City of Clovis Community Facilities District, number 2004-1, Police and Fire Services, and also consider approval of a resolution of the City Council of Clovis declaring the results of a special landowner election and directing recording of the notice of special tax lien for the City of Clovis Community Facilities District, number 2004-1, Police and Fire Services. Mr. City Attorney, do we do the presentation and then call the meeting, okay, very good.
Before you open the public hearing. Yes.
And Jay Shingle is our...
Good evening. I do believe you have the information in front of you to start.
Yes. This is the time and place for the public hearing in this council's proceedings for Community Facilities District number 2004-1. The hearing is to acquire annexation number 63 into the district and levy special taxes of annexation number 63. Before I formally open the hearings, is there anyone who wishes to file a written protest? If now, they must file those with the clerk now. Seeing none, hearing is now open. We will first have presentation by staff about annexation number 63. After that, we will receive comments and questions and any oral protests from any interested person. When all comments have been received, the hearing will be closed.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. On July 20th, 2020, the council heard a request by the affected property owners to include territory at the northwest corner of DeWolf and Harlan Ranch Boulevard as indicated in the detailed map and identified as CFD annexation number 63 to the city's CFD 2004-1. Tonight's action will finalize the annexation process by holding a public hearing and property owner election.
Thank you. Are there any comments, questions, or protests from the audience? Anyone in chambers? Seeing none, do we have anybody on the web?
None.
Mr. Clerk, were any written protests filed?
No.
Okay. I will close the hearing. We may now consider and adopt the resolution annexing territory annexation number 63 to the Community Facilities District 2004-1, which will annex territory described in the boundary map to the district and call a special property owner election, which will call for the property owner vote to approve the special tax and appropriations limit for annexation number 63.
I'll make that motion.
And Councilmember Flores seconds.
We have a motion and a second. Will the clerk please announce the results of the property owner vote?
Mayor, I'm in receipt of one ballot representing 2 votes indicating universal passage support.
Okay. The record shows that the property owners voted unanimously in favor of the levy of the special taxes and establishment of appropriation limits. We may now proceed with the final actions for the district.
I think maybe you and I are thinking the same thing. We never had an opportunity to vote on that motion, but we understand that the results are in, but we may at least want to, for the record, make the vote.
Okay. Let's do that.
A. Yeah, there was a motion and a second on item A.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on item A, which is consider approval of resolution annexing territory 63. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
And now I'll make a motion declaring the no wait, did you tell us the way we were? God, I'm so sorry. Declaring the results of a special landowner election and directing the notice of the recording of the notice of special tax lien for the city of Clovis, CFD number 2004-1.
And Councilmember Flores seconds that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Let's see here. And we have item 17, which is consider approval of a resolution approving a street plan line for Clovis Avenue from Shepherd Avenue to Beheimer and approving associated California Environmental Quality Act addendum to the 2014 General Plan Environmental Impact Report, EIR. Sean Smith is our presenter. Sean.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm here to ask your consideration on 2 items tonight. One is the adoption of the Clovis plan line from Shepherd to Beheimer, and the second is to approve the addendum to the 2014 General Plan EIR. So first question, what is a plan line? They are documents that depict the approximate planned alignment of major streets. They are developed through a process that involves property owner and stakeholder input. And we use them to ensure preservation of areas needed for future street construction to help guide development. And they are, in the end, they are recognized by the county, and they serve to guide the county in the approval of developments outside the Clovis boundaries. This graphic now that you're seeing are the plan lines that we intend to perfect in the Heritage Grove area. So this is the area north of Shepherd south of Copper, east of Willow, and west of Sunnyside. On this slide, the one that remains in red is the one that we're talking about tonight, Clovis from Shepherd to Beeheimer. The others I'll be returning to you in months, maybe a year or 2 years, depending on how fast I can get the environmental completed. But tonight we are focusing on Clovis from Shepherd to Beeheimer. The process that we took was in 2018, we started meeting with property owners and stakeholders and developers. Clovis Unified was involved, and we started to talk about this alignment. And then we started the environmental review process. And that is needed because under CEQA, this action is deemed a project. So we have to look at it and see what kind of environmental impact that there was. So the next step is tonight to seek council's approval, and should you approve it, I will then approach the County of Fresno Board of Supervisors and seek their approval. So tonight I'm asking for your approval to adopt the Clovis Avenue plan line and to approve the addendum to the 2014 General Plan EIR. And upon your approval, I will then go to the Board of Supervisors requesting their adoption and come back with the rest of the plan lines within the next 1 to 2 years.
I thought you said 22 years. So like, well, probably won't be here then, but.
1 to 2.
1 to 2.
That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Any, Bob?
Yeah, can you just address for us a little bit about the view corridor that's expected coming off of, I guess it would be off of Shepherd heading towards the Enterprise Canal, and as a result of the view corridor as a result of the little curve there?
Go back to this graphic. So the view corridor that you'll have as you drive north on Clovis, as you start to bend towards the north and west, you're going to see a big park, the largest park planned in the Heritage Grove area. And Clovis Avenue is really meant to going to be a signature roadway through that area.
And the idea is that there, I know that we're hoping to maybe have some landmark feature there. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but I really think that, well, obviously I'm partial to the way that this curves, but I also want to be clear that as it continues after the curve to the east, between Clovis Avenue and the Enterprise Canal, that's also going to be a green space?
Yes, that will be, it will continue all the way up to Beeheimer.
Okay, all right, great, thank you.
Vaughn? I know that this makes our plan more complete, but when we do something like this, do we put into consideration the potential financial benefits or losses, and how does that get incorporated into, because it's not something that's there, so it may drop value for some property owners if they're along that pathway, and does that put into where we may have to purchase, and so we may have to start saving money potentially or not?
Yes, that's considered, that's part of the public meetings we talk about. We actually seek the property owner's input as to what facilities are there so we can make the best decision possible and figure out what this cost is going to be and what a possible loss or gain could be to the property owners.
And many of this will be developer initiated and completed, very little of the city having to acquire land, not like the rail line where, you know, they have to acquire before they can put it on, correct?
Correct. We would expect development to see this through.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, I will open this to the public. Anyone in chambers wish to address the council on this item? Seeing none, do we have anybody on the web?
None.
Mr. Clerk, did we get any comments from the public via email?
No.
Okay, I will close public comments and come back to the council for discussion or for action.
I'll make a motion that we approve the street plan line for Clovis Avenue from Shepherd to Beeheimer and approve the associated CEQA addendum to the 2014 general plan EIR.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Now we come to a workshop for the Clovis City Council to conduct a workshop to discuss the impact on ongoing city operations during the COVID-19 state of emergency as declared by the federal government, State of California, County of Fresno, and City of Clovis, and to explore actions that the city may take in response to the crisis. Item 18 is consider approval of a resolution adopting a resolution amending the 2019-2020 annual action plan and amending the fiscal year 2020-2021 housing and community development budget to increase the funds by $60,000. And our city manager is our presenter. Luke.
Well, actually, Andy will be presenting that item in a moment, but before we get to that, I wanted to give council an update. It's been 5 weeks, I think, since we met, so just on some of the stats that we're keeping on Clovis, and as we're seeing some changes in the infections and hospitalization rates. So
I just wondered if we need like different workshops for every catastrophe we have.
Well, we will actually be having.
How many workshops should we have in a night?
The latest emergency occurred after the agenda was posted, but we will be covering, Chief Banaski will be presenting an update on the fires, kind of as part of the city manager comments or right before city manager.
I was kind of kidding, but kind of not.
Well, I wish we were.
I think we should make a motion that you can only have 2 catastrophes at one time. Like that's the maximum catastrophe.
And we still have 4 months left of 2020.
Aye.
Okay, so this first slide just shows the number of new infections in Clovis by week. This is provided to these first few slides are provided by the county. We had spiked back in the second week of August at 171. It's gone down, kind of holding steady. Keep in mind that these slides are prepared on Tuesday, today, but the reporting period goes through the end of the week. So the last number really is not a complete report, so you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. This shows the number of infections for the various cities in the county, with the exception of the city of Fresno. Not a chart we want to be at the top of, but we have climbed to the highest number of infections of all the smaller cities. Now, we are much larger than the other cities, so on a per capita basis, we would not necessarily be that high, but for just gross number, we are, Fresno far exceeds this number, and they aren't included in the graph because it kind of skews the vertical scale. This is just a breakdown of the source of transmission, and we are fairly consistent with the rest of the county, with many under investigation, but a lot of person-to-person and community-acquired cases as well. This is a breakdown by age. And
can I have a question with regards to just the community acquired and all that? Has the county gotten any more specific detail other than these 4 categories, like it was at a restaurant, it was at a community event, it was at a sporting, whatever? Have they gotten to that level?
No, I specifically asked about that, and they do not break it down that way. It's basically if they can identify that you got it from someone that had it, like a family member or something, or they can identify who you were in contact with. It's person to person. If it's travel related, you brought it back from someplace else. Those were common early, but not so much now. Everything else is community acquired. You got it, you don't know where, and then you have the under investigation where they're still tracing to determine if there was a family member or something like that. But they don't break it down as to, did you get it in a restaurant, did you get it at a barber shop? They don't keep that kind of data, and neither does the state.
Are contact tracers actually getting that detail? Do you know? You may or may not know where they're actually asking yes, you got it from here, but was it at a restaurant or was it at a home, group birthday event?
They would probably be able to narrow it down that it was at a family event or something like that, but other than that, they just don't know. Community acquired means you got it someplace and they're not sure who and they don't know where, so.
Okay, thanks, Luke.
I think I heard the health officer talk. I think part of it is that contact tracing hasn't kept up with the spread, so they've sort of lost ground trying to figure out where did you go, who did you talk to. So I think that's the intent, but I think the tracing hasn't kept up with at least that's my understanding of why it's hard to answer that particular, unless you say, I was with my family and there was 85 people and that's where we got it. So I think that's part of the problem.
We also had a meeting with the doctors, and what you just said, Luke, is exactly what they're telling us. Community spread so widespread that there's no way they can contact trace everybody. At some point, they lose track of who was the last person they were with. So it's impossible at this point.
Dare County, I think, did a really good job. They used their, did I say this, like their sheriff investigators or their DA investigators? Sheriffs, I guess, maybe sheriffs. And they were able to track it because they didn't have very many people, but it even got away from them. So I think when you had 22 cases a day or 36 cases a day, that was one thing. But at this rate, I think it's just not possible to keep track.
So this breaks down the age group of the infections by community. And it's actually fairly consistent as far as the ratio. As you can see, a large number of or a large proportion of the new infections are in the 18 to 49-year-old, which to a certain extent you would expect. Those are the people that are out going to work every day, out doing things. This breaks down just by gender. The state is tracking both gender and ethnicity on these issues. This breaks it down by gender, fairly close to even split. This is by gender. The gender largely is consistent with the makeup of the community. So you can see that information. This is a chart I put together showing for Fresno County, this isn't Clovis only, this is Fresno County, the number of hospitalizations and the number of ICU hospitalizations. The solid blue line is the confirmed hospitalized COVID cases by that day. The dotted blue line is the confirmed plus the suspected COVID patients that have been hospitalized. And then the solid red is the confirmed ICU cases, and the dotted red is the confirmed plus the suspected ICU. As you can see, the hospitalizations really spiked up in July. They are coming down. We still have a long ways to go, but they have definitely come down. And the ICUs, while they didn't have as high a rise, have also come down a little bit, but at a much lower rate. And this is a graph showing how many deaths by week have been reported with the Clovis address. We just had the one back, but at the beginning of June, and we went a long time without any. They have jumped up, to as high as 4 a week. They came down a little bit. Again, the last number you kind of have to wait and see because that week hasn't been fully reported. But okay, and that's my just overview on what's happening. It's been a while, so I wanted to catch up on those statistics. I'm open for any questions, and if you don't have any questions, I'll turn it over to Andy for item 18.
I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Luke. Go ahead, Jose.
My comment as far as, we don't get Fresno numbers because they're so big, but I've broken them down by population. Even though they're big, it's only 2.5% of their population, and that's about the same. Of the 15 cities of Fresno County, we're averaging 2.5% of the population. In Clovis, on the 1st of September, we were 1.2 of our population, 1.2. Today, we're 1.4 of our population. Other cities, smaller cities, are way out there. They're in their 7%, almost 8. some are 4.5, excuse me, 5.5. So even though our numbers are big, they're big because we have a larger population than these other smaller cities. But as we compare our population based on how many cases we actually have, our numbers are actually, percentage to our population are fairly small. So it just means that we're a different kind of population, different demographics with different jobs, that our exposure to the bug is different than these smaller cities. And that's what it, because, but overall, our county is at about 2.4% of infection.
Lynn?
Do you think when you, could you bring the countywide metric and how we're doing to get out of purple? Because at the end of the day, we're trying to get out of purple. And so whatever those four call, I sent it to you, but I forgot what they were already. Those four, I think there's 4 metrics. It would just be curious to track how the county is doing to move out of that purple.
Yes, I'll start presenting that as well. We are
I'm sure the county,
a long ways from moving out.
I know, but I just thought it'd be uplifting.
And I believe, so I believe today, and when Chief Benassi up here, he can confirm this. I believe today we start the 3-week, is the official start date, and you have to stay here for 3 weeks with, you know, before the possibility of movement. But I think we have quite a ways to go before we can move down to the next level. But I'll bring those numbers.
Just be curious to track that, because that's the magic to get to do anything that's part of the magic thing.
Bob?
Luke, since school has started, and I'm speaking specifically to our staff, and as some may have younger children, and with us being open again with all the staff back, can you share a little bit about what we have done internally to help accommodate our staff and how we can help them maybe flex schedules if it's not, or something? Speak to that, so that way how we're helping our staff kind of get through this moment.
Absolutely. So first thing, the majority, if not the vast majority of our positions, really we have limited flexibility with. You know, we got to pick up the garbage between 6 and 2, and the garbage truck driver has to work from 6 to 2. You know, the firemen, they have their 48-hour shift, they got to be there. So most of the positions we don't have a lot of flexibility with. There are some that we do have the ability to be flexible with, and those are scattered throughout all departments. And typically, you know, they're not front office staff. It doesn't do anything it doesn't do us any good to have a flexible schedule for a receptionist or a finance clerk that's taking the payments, because there's nobody coming in when the office is closed. Most people are really tied down to working the shift. There is the extended FMLA leave that was provided that they can take for a limited number of hours, but most are at work. For those in the positions that we can offer some flexibility, we had all the department heads check with their staff and basically offer to work with them between the hours of 5 a.m. and 7 p.m. If you can get your 8 hours in, then you could come in at 5, go home at 9, you know, come back in at 3 and work till 7. We would do that. We even offered some weekend options. But then you also get into the position of you do lose some productivity when you don't have everybody there in certain times. Some people you don't, but others you do. So we've offered that flexibility where possible, but the majority of our positions probably don't qualify for that. Now, I do know that very early on when this first started, we had some of our police officers or whatever changing shifts. You know, they may have had the seniority to be on the day shift, but for child care reasons, they switched to nights so that they could be home during the day, stuff like that. But for the most part, everybody's working a regular shift.
No, thank you for, even if it's a couple, I think the ability of the city to work with our staff to allow them, you know, doing the 5 to 7, kind of what you're saying, is something that I think really helps. I mean, I have a 5-year-old. My wife works at home she has to make up that time, right? She has to be with that 5-year-old from when it starts, because you just can't leave them alone. But then she has to make up that time, and I can just see how some of our staff may have the same situation. So, has the use of the COVID time been pretty well used? Is it not? Can you kind of also share a little bit about what we've offered and people have taken advantage of that or not?
It's been used somewhat, not extensively, because for that use of COVID time, it's at 2/3 pay, basically, under the rules that were adopted by the federal government. But what we do allow is if someone, they can kind of mix and match their work hours with their COVID time or their COVID leave time. They can, if they can squeeze 30 hours in at full pay, then just the 10 hours at 2/3 pay, they're allowed to do that under the Act, and there are a few people doing that. There's actually, I don't know if there's anybody that's taking the full 40 hours a week and just staying home on the child care component of the COVID leave time, because it has a finite quantity that you can take over time, and then because of the limitation on how much you can get paid under that as well.
Thanks for that report.
Thank you. I'm also on the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District Board, and we were discussing in our last meeting the impact of COVID-19 on the restaurant industry. And this is more of a statement than a question. The National Restaurant Association predicts a $240 billion loss in the restaurant industry by the end of this year. Over 30,000 California restaurants are expected to close by the end of 2020, and over 900,000 restaurant workers in California have been unemployed. And I mean, this doesn't talk about our hairdressers, barbers, people like that have just kind of suffered along here. So as uncomfortable and unpleasant as it is to get out of purple, as long as the governor doesn't keep moving the goalposts on us, hopefully we can get there and get some people back to work and get back to living. But that was just my little diatribe here. Okay, any other questions for staff? Go ahead, Luke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before we move on, I just got a text from one of our department heads telling me that we do have one employee that is just using the EFMLA leave at the 2/3 pay full time. So we do have one.
Okay, if we have no other questions from council, it's been such a long time I've been up here. Do we need to open this to the public for comments? Right. Okay. Well, I will invite the public in chambers. If you have any comments on this workshop item, feel free to approach the podium and tell us what you think. Seeing none, do we have anybody on the web?
None.
And assuming we got no comments on email?
We do not.
Okay. And we'll be going to item 18. Andy?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Andy Hostler, Community and Economic Development Director. So this evening, we'll be asking you to do a budget amendment. No, thank you. An amendment to our action plan. Back in March and April, the federal government, Congress approved the CARES Act. In there was an amount of CDBG funds called CDBG-CV. The city of Clovis got an allocation of $441,000, and it was required those funds be spent expeditiously and on programs that would serve impacted individuals. The city in May approved the Senior Meals Program and the Emergency Housing Payment Program. Both of those programs have gone to serve low-income households and disadvantaged persons that are heavily impacted by COVID, and those funds have gone to help our community. The Emergency Housing Payment Program is out of funds, and we're coming in tonight to talk about that program. So a quick update on the Senior Meals Program. So far, we have served over 11,000 meals 763 seniors have been served, and 52 restaurants have participated. We anticipate to expend the remaining amount of those funds through the end of October, and it's been wildly successful, and a lot of people are grateful for that effort. And I'd like to thank the Senior Center staff, General Services. There's really a team behind that program making it work every day, along with a lot of volunteers. On the Emergency Housing Payment Program, that program launched on July 15th. We had 46 households that were assisted with mortgage and or rent payments. The cap is 3 months worth of value. They also each received budget counseling and housing counseling for those 46. And we had originally budgeted $200,000. We had some need, and we had a little bit of additional funds, and HUD's rules allowed us to meet that need. So we have expended all of our funds plus a little, and we currently have 48 applications on hold for funding that we determined to be eligible. So tonight we are proposing an amendment to our CDBG program to shift some money around. We had some savings in administration, we had some unspent rehabilitation funds, and we had an ADA project that can be delayed. Combined, that would create $147,000, almost $148,000 in funds to put into the program, and based on our averages, serve 33 households. In addition, staff is researching additional sources for funding. This could be through an additional CDBG CARES Act allocation. That's part of the original CARES Act that HUD is determining how to allocate, as well as looking at any additional CDBG projects in 2021 that we could delay. We would come back with any of those funds to you for consideration at that time. So we are recommending to amend our 2019-20 CDBG Annual Action Plan and to amend the 2021 budget to allow for this program to continue. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Any questions for staff? Bob.
You know, Andy, I wanted to thank you and Heidi for running this program so effectively. You know, a couple of weeks ago, we got that Friday report of the Weiss family, about the AC unit, and how appropriate that it came right when it was, you know, hitting over 100 degrees. We were able to act very expeditiously, giving them an AC unit. And I think that there are probably a lot of other families, because if you can't be comfortable in your home, whatever the need may be in that home, it makes this time even more difficult. So, you know, I appreciate you guys coming back to asking to put it in, especially in this area. So thank you for that, and please let Heidi know we're doing a great job with the program as well.
Definitely takes a team, and we have Habitat for Humanity on that team. We also have the Community Housing Council. John Shore is here tonight. He's been helping with the Housing Assistance Program. So we're grateful for our partners to make it all happen.
Any other questions for staff? Andy, I'd just like to say that I had a local hairdresser reached out to me to let me know that she applied for several programs, and the only program that stepped up to help her was the City of Clovis. And she told me how proud she was to live here. And I'm, you know, usually when cities shuffle around money, they take things away for another purpose. And we are taking and shuffling money so that we can actually help people, and that's what we do. And I'm real proud of staff for your actions here. This is amazing. Any member of the public wish to address the council on this item? Anyone in chambers? Yes, sir. If you'll give us your name, please, sir.
Yes, I'm John Shore, the Executive Director of the Community Housing Council. And we're just very proud and pleased that we were chosen by Andy and Heidi to be the administration part of this CDBG money. I'm the guy that gets to tell people you've been approved and hear them. It's just unbelievable to know that the city has got a program that actually has some teeth in it that does a lot of good for the community. I will also tell you one other thing. As a HUD-approved agency, HUD has a saying that says, home ownership is the platform to a better quality of life. So we're all about helping people buy homes. Many of the people we've helped with this program have been renters. So we do counseling with them, we do a budget, we talk about their, what their needs are, how they're going to become homeowners someday. So it's much deeper than just getting somebody current on their rent. It's really showing them that their life can improve dramatically by becoming a homeowner. And there's one other little side benefit, and that is that with the partnership and the funds that we were able to earn by administering this program, my nonprofit was able to hire another housing counselor, which means that you put one more person to work, because we know that this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are many people, you mentioned all the restaurant people. There are many people out of work still, people that are homeowners that are struggling, not knowing how they're going to keep that house. So we have many programs available to them through the Community Housing Council, and we're getting ready for an onslaught of business. So thank you for helping us stay in business and do good things for the community. I thank you so much.
Thank you for your assistance with our community, John. Bond.
Mr. Shore, I appreciate your philosophy in helping the poorest within our community, because if you getting a handout does not move you up. It's only when the poor has attained assets, and it's one of the biggest is the attainment of a home. And I appreciate you educating and taking the time not just to fix whatever we have, discovered to fix in that home, but to actually take the time to counsel and to teach individuals on attainment of assets, attainment of a home. I appreciate that, because that, even if they can't, that knowledge will lay a foundation in which now them and or their children will be able to take that step out of poverty. So
thank you. I'm glad you realize that and appreciate that. We serve over 1,000 families every year and have done that for the last 12 years. So we're not a small little nonprofit. We do a lot of good things for the community. And I want to introduce to you that one person that you were able to bring to my staff. This is Amber Castro, a housing counselor in training with the Community Housing Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the public in chambers wish to address council on this item? Seeing none, do we have anybody on the web?
None.
Mr. Clerk, did we have anybody send any emails?
No.
Okay, I will close public comment on this item and move to council for comment or for action.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the resolution amending the 1920 annual action plan and amending the 2021 housing and community development budget to increase the funds by $60,000.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Now we come to city manager comments. Mr. Serpa.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, with your indulgence and with all council's indulgence,
yes.
I'd like to have Chief Banaski come up, and before we get into city manager comments, just give kind of a rundown and briefing on the other emergency in our area.
Good evening, Chief Banaski.
Catastrophe item, we could have,
Let's not even go there.
we already have this like in Lake Tahoe, come on.
I know, that's why I'm
Add
saying
them
let's
all
not
up.
even go there. So the first one, let's go back to COVID, because I looked it up before we go. They're no longer doing the 4 categories. The main concern of the new governor's plan is positivity cases per day. We need to get below 7, we're 12.6. And then a positivity rate below 8, and we're 9.6. Those are now, according to the state, there are only 2 matrices. Number of cases per day below 7 or below, we're at 12.6, and a positivity rate below 8, and that is where we're at 9.6. So those are the 2 basic matrices. That's where we were today. That bought us the 3 weeks. And then we kind of need to be 2 weeks at that level, not just a day or 2 to make that achievement. So hopefully that answers.
But we're not at either of those 2, so our 3 weeks hasn't really started, right? Don't you have to get to the place and then stay for 3 weeks?
Correct.
So we're not there, so our 3-week clock hasn't really started yet.
Well, we're in purple, so our 3 weeks clock to stay in purple, even if we hit a week worth of good numbers to move us to red, we bought 3 weeks in purple from Monday. So we're 3 weeks in purple. We need 2 weeks of the matrix in red, and then we can move to red. But even if we got 2 weeks today, there'd still be another week in purple according to the governor's new workshop, if I'm understanding it correctly. Yes. And then schools, no matter what, are an additional 2 weeks in the new matrix.
It would be super helpful if he just picked something and we could just like, that's the rule, but I don't know. It might end up changing before it's all over, but that's helpful.
We might get sent to our room for more than 3 weeks if this continues.
Gosh, it's
Yes.
exhausting.
Yes. ICU beds, because there's been the alternate care site in Porterville. There is some other means for ICU, or not ICU beds, but standard beds and some alternate care sites and things like that. So I just want to give you that information. Now to the Creek Fire, to put it in perspective. So the Creek Fire started approximately 8 p.m. on Friday in the Big Creek area. It expanded out. We've been very fortunate over the past couple of years because of the bark beetle dead. A lot of these fires start in the afternoon. The U.S. Forest Service has put a retardant plane on contract that's been at Fresno Air Terminal. CAL FIRE has 2 S-2s that have been out of Porterville Air Attack, along with the 2 helicopters on contract. So when it's during the day, we've been very fortunate to be able to put air attack resources on it rapidly, confine it along with ground resources, and that's what's really done a good job in the last couple of years. At 8 p.m., there are no air resources coming in because no one here has the ability to fly with infrared goggles at night, take special training, and no one has that capability with the helicopters. So the fire took off Friday night. At Saturday morning at approximately 3 a.m., we dispatched an engine through our standard mutual aid system to go assist. The fire grew larger. Saturday, it really grew. And then we sent another engine on Sunday, along with another engine to the Sequoia Fire in Porterville. And it just continuously grew. They then, lack of a better term, on Monday called Broken Arrow for the Shaver area. We sent the on-duty crew at Station 45, sent them up there, and they have all been working since the minute they've got there till today. So we did manage this afternoon, I believe, to get one of the rigs back to the base camp at Sierra High School and to bed them down for rest. But a majority of all those firefighters have been there since the beginning, have worked on that line since Friday night or early Saturday morning and have done the work we can. A fire of this size at 144,000, the assumption we should be somewhere around 3,000 firefighters. They're just not available in the state anywhere to go to get them. So what we call it is UTF. So we just have orders in, or the state does, and they're unable to fill. So there's no more resources coming to help us out at this point. We do believe the Santa Clara unit and them are going to wind down theirs, and some more units will come tomorrow as they get demoed from that fire and moved over to the next one. But that's where we are. We're in red flag conditions today. The fire did make some good runs this afternoon. If you noticed, about 4:30, the sky turned kind of dark again, kind of orange in town, and that's the movement of the smoke pushing down. It's coming off a northeasterly flow right now, and it's pushing back down to the Auberry area and then along Toll House Road there to kind of, I guess you could call it the southeast. And then it's moving its way up into the North Fork area. And that's the primary the problem areas as we speak right now. The inversion layer's here, so there's no air attack ability to get in there, so they can't see. And it's really just about Auberry Road 168 at the bottom of the 4 lanes there is where the fire's gone down, and it's peeled around the corner. There's been approximately 60 structures already lost, 2 commercial, but on the good side, if there is a good side to it, there's been a lot of really good work and a lot of safe structures out there. I mean, considering the bark beetle dead that was up there, CAL FIRE, Fresno County Fire has spent a lot of time, energy, and resources prepping that area, putting in fire breaks, clearing well over 100 feet off the roads to help for evacuation, even though it didn't completely work like we hoped, and people had to still be choppered out because we couldn't get down 168. But a lot of good work went in there, or else there would have been a much more significant loss. And if you take this for where we are right now to, let's say, Paradise lost about 18,000 structures. We're at 60. So, I mean, we got a big fire, but nowhere in comparison to the big losses of like in the city or the area of Paradise. But there's still a long way to go. After we finally put this fire out, the next area of concern will be erosion and mudslides for the winter. So not only are we going to put the fire out, we'll then have to come back and go deal with it in the wintertime. But Clovis PD also participates in that Mass Mutual Aid. Captain Roberts is here, but I know they had 5. I think they have 7 officers up there today. They have them planned out through the rest of the week to make sure to keep people out of the area, evacuate where they are. It takes a big team to go deal with a fire that's 144,000 acres and growing, and I'm sure, listen today, that's well above 150,000. So that's where we are. We also have assisted Fresno County OES along with the American Red Cross. Last night, Chad Fitzgerald got the phone call. Lucky the Clovis Fire Department or the city of Clovis always seems to do things right. We put our resources in good times to good use. So when COVID broke out, it was other agencies called and said, oh, you have N95 masks, you have these things, because we don't have any, we can't find any, here you go. So we've been kind of the go-to to help for that. Well, now for this one, they needed some cots, they needed blankets, they needed all these things out there at Clovis North School. Chad brought over that with our logistics person last night, and they helped get that set up for them. But their goal really is to try to move people to a hotel or another area. And up to that point till last night, it was just a receiving center to get people checked in, find out what type of help they need, and then they were moving them to hotels. The hotels now have become full, so now they're just starting to run out of room. The people that did stay there before in the parking lot and things like that, they stayed for the choice that they had some animals and stuff that they couldn't bring, roosters or chickens or things like that, into hotels, so they chose to stay there, and that's what they've done. Clovis Unified PD has put 2 officers out there, so that's been great for some security purposes, and then they expanded for the animals into the other gym so they could have crates, and they gave more room for the dogs, the cats, and all of them indoors. So that's where it stands. Chad Fitzgerald, our emergency manager, is actually back out there again this evening, double checking to make sure that they have all the resources they need. There's what good side or bad side, but there's a lot of law enforcement up here. Apparently, no good crisis goes without trying to set up a GoFundMe account or send donations to my Venmo. So Clovis Fire has been tagged on a few of those today on social media. We are not soliciting any goods. The state of California, through COVID, we purchase all, when I say we, but your taxpayers through the state or through federal dollars through the Sierra National Forest purchases all the ice, all the meals for the firefighters. All of that is done. They have we've done this for 25 years. They know exactly the list based on the amount of people of exactly what we need, where we need to go get it. It just takes us a little bit of time to bring all those pieces in, and part of it's because they're contract bid awards. So sometimes the person who gets that bid award isn't in the Central Valley. They're in Southern California or Northern California to bring the porta potties, bring the fuel tenders. They're now all pretty much there getting in place. So all those things logistically wise has been taken care of. The bigger problem for us is the cutoff of 168 limited getting ice, water, meals up to the crews that were in Huntington, but that's been resolved today. So they managed to take care of all of that. So I can rest assured the public that the firefighters up there are being taken care of, all of their needs are being met, and there is no need to donate to the fire personnel up there. They're being taken care of. Now, for the citizens and them, obviously there's people out there, but I think the lady from whoever does the animal rescue, for them, gift cards and cash donations to them are the best to the American Red Cross, and I would say donate it to the Central Valley chapter, not the American Red Cross larger umbrella, so that way those dollars stay specifically here. Or the animal rescue, I know Miss Winkles and them have been out there, Aaron and them helping and assisting with some additional cages and cats and things like that. So again, it's just Clovis coming to the rescue to help our county neighbors in need. And that's pretty much the update where we're at. Size-wise, where I'm at 19 personnel, including myself, the deputy chief, the fire marshal, I have 60 personnel. I've got one on work comp. So if you take that to 59, I've got well over a third of my department, and I probably have one going out tomorrow and another one the next day. Back up there is what we call single resource overhead position. So, but every station in the city of Clovis is staffed, and we would send more. I've got volunteers in my department who, obviously, this is what we do. We want to go help people. The limitation now is we need a fire engine to put them on, and I'm out of fire engines to put them on. So that's where our limitation is today. Same with Fresno and all the other local valley departments, even Fresno County. There's just no more fire engines to staff to bring people up there in.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for the Chief?
Can you educate us on what containment would be for it? How does it get measured so that way that number moves up or down?
Well, containment, so assume containment won't be reached till like October. So you won't see that number to 100% of containment. Part of it is because of how government works in funding. So part of that rehab dollars to put water breaks in and do dozer work, rehab for the fire and stuff, is tied to fire suppression. So we have to have some form of containment to make that dollar still work. But right now, the reason why this is at zero is what we say containment is we cut line, either by hand, dozer, whatever that is, on the final perimeter line. And then we mop up 150 feet in to make sure that when the wind kicks up, something doesn't, bring up that ash, that ember, put it back out into the unburnt area. We've done zero of that right now. I mean, right now they are still doing structure protection there in Bald Mountain, Pine Ridge, and those areas. So those resources right now are committed to doing that. The other aspect that's made it more difficult is CAL FIRE through the years have had very successful programs of using people sentenced to state prison as their crews. It gets them the opportunity where they don't have to go back into prison. They actually stay at night at the crew camps, and they put out crews throughout the state of California. Well, because of COVID, the other laws that were passed, those were low-level nonviolent criminals. Well, we've now released all of those people, so as a result, we don't have, CAL FIRE does not have that labor force for the hand crews. So they started a month and a half ago of hiring seasonal hand crews. They have to get trained, outfitted. So they are hiring 800 of them, but none of them are really out on the fires yet. So that's the other part that's hampering that containment effort is we don't have the crews to get out there, so we're having to use the engine crews and those people. And I hate to say it, but the state prison crews did really, 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 really good, hard work. And if you compared them to what the work of the amount of time we put light into where they did, they beat us every single time. They were good. They liked being out there. It was better than being in a cell, and they're duly missed because they were really part of that firefighting force and really helped us throughout the last 20 years. And it's sad to see that, unfortunately, go.
Thanks, Chief. I'm sorry, Lynn, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I guess another education question. How do you contain it? Where do you start? How do you do it? How do you do it?
First thing is you see which way a normal wildland fire, and I'll tell you right now, this isn't normal. A normal wildland fire.
This isn't normal?
No, not at all. This is nowhere close to normal.
That's good, because this is not normal.
Right, it's 2020, why would anything be normal?
That's right.
And the conditions are bad everywhere. So, in Big Sur this morning, we call them basically baked potato. They're made out of aluminum, fire shelters that we can deploy. I mean, I've never read about fire shelters being deployed at 8:45 in the morning. And this morning at the Big Sur fire, 14 people deployed their fire shelters. 3 firefighters got burned, and they got flown to Fresno Burn Center because it was the closest burn center to take care of them. So, you normally see that stuff in the afternoon. Last night, this fire really went into Cressman's store. Just to kind of give you the impact of where we are in the fire department, one of my employees, they lost their home. So that home's been destroyed up there. I have 2 more that have been evacuated. I know there's plenty of other city staff who's had evacuation notices. So it is affecting our employees in the city of Clovis. But where you kind of go, and a normal fire has what we call the head of the fire. The wind's driving it or topography's driving that one head. We start to come over here where it's burned, and we start to flank it, a little bit of aircraft in the front of it, slows it down, and then we basically just pincer it off. This thing is swirling around and going all over the place. It's going left to North Fork, it's going right to Trimmer, and it's coming south into, and it's actually at China Peak too as the right point, so they're doing structural protection at China Peak an hour before I came into the meeting, and it's coming south into Aubrey. So it's just splintering out because of fuel load, all of the dead trees, topography, and the winds kind of just swirling and changing because of how we're trying to go from high pressure to low pressure and changing. So right now it's coming off of the mountains down. By tomorrow, it'll be our normal out of the northwest, so that'll start pushing it back uphill into Huntington and back up that way. So it's the changing winds also. Always a fun adventure out there for everybody. But how we'll start attacking it is we'll start picking it up from the bigger roads. So 168 onto small roads, start to dozer it in, start to mop it up, and that's where we're going to do. But out by China Lake, I think they had a 75-acre spot fire. That's not what I call a spot fire. We used to call a spot fire 5 acres or smaller, not 75. It's changed, so that's what they were describing this afternoon is we have a 75-acre spot fire. Well, that's not a spot fire, that's another fire. Soon they will join together and be one again, but that's what it is.
Bob?
On the map that you have up on the screen, Chief, I've noticed there's a red line kind of as the San Joaquin River drops into Milliken Lake and then another red line. It looks like, I don't know if it's running along the crest of the Sierra. Do you know what those represent?
On this topo map, the one that's running the San Joaquin, I think, is the county line from Fresno to Madera. I don't know what the one on the right's truly representing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that could be the John Muir maybe, or Pacific Crest Trail. Is it between,
Oh, by Kaiser out there, yeah.
oh yeah, that's not John Muir,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
And just to give you an idea on the map, the red's like basically the last 12 hours of fire spread and involvement. The yellow's the following next 12 hours, and then the center you go from there. So you can just see in 12 hours, that's the amount of red and how far the fire's grown. And that's all picked up by satellite now.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Well, it's over there. It's still on 168 right there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you right now, my guess is you see the red on Shaver Lake and you see the red at the bottom, those will swoop together and completely go around the lake. So that probably needs to happen first. It's pretty much going to be within another couple hours. By tonight, it'll be fully around Huntington, my guess. So, and then the question becomes North Fork. And then to give you an idea of size and complexity of this fire, CAL FIRE, there's types of teams, like a type 3 team, a type 2 team. Type 1 is the most qualified people. CAL FIRE ordered a type 1 team. They took all of Fresno County there at Sierra High School. And because of the size, the Sierra National Forest, through the Forest Service, ordered a type 1 team. They came from the Great Basin because none of the California teams were available because they're already all out of fires. They came in, and they are at, is it Minaret High School in Madera? Does that sound correct? They're at a high school in Madera. That's where they've set up, and that's where they're running it for basically the north and south zone, as they call it. Everything in Fresno County is being ran by that team that's at Sierra. Everything in Madera and probably soon some portions of maybe Mariposa will be ran in the federal team out of Madera. So, I mean, there's 2 type 1 teams. There'll be 2 base camps. I mean, this is going to be a large fire and a lot of people and resources needed to put it out.
Absolutely.
On the main road through Shaver Lake, this structure seems to, at some point, did you say, we can't even say this, I mean, I think they've done a remarkable job, that point and the end market and that, just little strip in there, it seemed like there's still, at least they were left. At some
Well, that's already burned through. At least it looks good so far. So, I mean, the fire's gone through there. It's burned a majority of the fuel load out of it. Now it's just taking crews to mop it up, make sure there's no spot fires or anything else. So, their risk is definitely diminished. I would say where the risk is right now is at Albury, and that's the bigger risk right now. And there is a lot of dead trees right out there in Albury, right on the back side of it where it comes down, on the Borough Road there and some other places. So, right now, it looks like it's just falling. Where is the dead trees from the bark beetle when it's cranking right through all that dead fuel? And there's a lot of it, unfortunately. There's more brown in spots than there was green. And that's where it's at. So, Shaver Lake, I mean, Fresno County Fire, I have to get my hats off to them. They put their local resources in there along with the local firefighters from the valley floor. They put a lot of dozer work in there. And, I mean, if I was to look at a fire that big, I would have thought Shaver, a majority of it would be gone, and it's not. I mean, it's there, they protected it. There are some places, Cressman, Dogwood, that there is some loss in there, but a lot of that place, even the West Village, was still there. So, tremendous job by the work they did there. Tremendous job on the cabins on Huntington. I think they only lost about 10 or so on the south side of Huntington in there. So, I mean, if you're looking at a fire this big, that's a lot of really good work by not seeing what we call moonscape, where it's just completely gone.
Bob.
Thank you. Can you, so sometimes when fires are so unusual like this one is and appear to be unpredictable, and frankly the spread is really fast, it makes a lot of us uncomfortable that live here in the valley. And there's been some, I don't know if it's hyperbole or some people have been commenting about their concerns related to it actually coming down into the valley. Can you talk about the difference in the fuel load between what's up in the Sierra and what is?
I did hear the rumor that it's coming to Harlan Ranch, so I can rest assure everybody that it's not going to come to Harlan Ranch. And if it does, we're in really big trouble because we should have stopped it a long time ago. There's the big Frying Kern Canal break. I mean, there's a lot of.
Could you say that last sentence?
There's the Frying Kern Canal break. I mean, it's a big break. It's autumn. I mean, it's huge in there. It's a big spot. But fuel load really changes. So even once we start to come up into Albury, if you made a defensible space, you did your things around your home, the fuel is much more brush. Hopefully you cleared your grass and your brush around your house. It's a much different fire than where you have just, I mean, it's 5 feet of underbrush that you have to walk in from where the trees all fell from the bark beetle and everything. So it's just so much fuel load that the fire's just burning so rapidly and so hot and intense that's really what's causing that problem. As soon as we get out of the forest and more into our standard land, then you'll start to see also, because it's burning so much, that's what's causing the inversion over the smoke. It doesn't burn that hot as much. So in turn, it starts to rise faster. We can bring aircraft in. It's what you see also a little bit too. So if it comes back down that road some more, once we start getting into the regular grass and brush, tactics will change. And the other part to it at that point is once it's out there, it's much easier for us to put dozer line in. With the big trees, dozer line, you can't push them over. So we have to maneuver it when the forest is overgrown. There's a lot, the sticks are next to each other. We can't fit a dozer in between them. We can't push them over. So as a result, you have to figure out how to maneuver your way around through it. When we're on the ground with brush, we can put the dozer line wherever we want to put the dozer line and use topography to our advantage and contain the fire. This is still in the forest and heavy timber and dead timber, and that's the problem.
Thank you.
On Saturday night, I got a call that we had mass casualties being transported via helicopter to the Fresno airport. And I went in and I think I was there for about 6 hours. And the fire service people are extremely brave and dedicated. I did get to see, and I've never been to I've been to a lot of incidents, but I'd never seen an incident command where you had American Ambulance was on top of stuff, Fresno Fire, the military. The commander of the unit came directly from some social function, and he's a full bird colonel, and he's wearing shorts and a t-shirt. His staff showed up. They were all over it. I watched a Chinook helicopter come in with about 100 people inside of it. And they were just standing like toe to toe inside this aircraft. Kids, dogs, a lot of these people were from out of the area. These people were being brought in from Mammoth Pool. And they were bringing them off the helicopters, and the fire service and the military guys grabbed these people, got them into the armory, actually gave them MREs. I was watching people eat meals ready to eat out of the bag, which had to be an experience for them.
They've actually gotten a lot better.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, I will tell you the lens from the last 10 years are much better than 20 years ago.
Oh, I know.
Preservatives are a wonderful thing.
And the one thing that I do recall is I had a 16-year-old boy walk up to me, and his eyes were welling up because they had to leave their dad behind. And he said, "Is there another helicopter going out? My dad didn't come." And I had to tell him I didn't know. Then I did find out, and I went back and I told him, yes, there was another helicopter being run out. I never did get to see if they got reunited, but there were people who were, they were just devastated. And most of them were actually from Southern California because they were up here camping. So watching what functioning professionals can do in a very quick amount of time is very impressive. And so my hats are off to the fire service and the military and our EMS folks that are able to grow together that system and go out there and save lives. So that's a big deal.
The one thing I can say is California has had the most robust mutual aid system, cooperative partners with everybody than probably any state in the United States. Florida, because of hurricanes, came out afterwards, really tried to figure out our system. They've gotten much better at it, but you can be an earthquake, you can be stranded at Mammoth Pools, one way or another, there is somebody at the command center up in Sacramento, to local here with OES, to the IC there, working out how to solve that problem and who can we call. And we can't do it without the help of others, and that's really where we look at it is you know, I took engine station 45. We unstaffed it because I sent the engine up the hill. I sent another one out to the county because they had all their resources done. But you can't staff for this type of fire or these types of large things. Everybody would be broke if we had to staff this level. So it's really just that cooperative helping ability to help your neighbor in their time of need. That's what we do. We bring more people in, we get our station restaffed, and that's how we function, and that's how law enforcement and everybody functions is what can I do to help you out, get you over the hump, and then we'll figure it out from there about reimbursements or what we need, and somehow we always seem to come out okay at the end.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Chief Manaski? Thank you, Chief.
There's your wildland firefighting 101 course.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. For my comments, I just wanted to inform council. Last week, a couple of the county supervisors, Supervisor Pacheco and Supervisor Brandow, reached out to several city managers in the county of the smaller cities. Well, actually, when I say smaller cities, of all the cities except for Fresno, asking us to participate in a Zoom meeting to talk about COVID-related expenditures that the cities have had to pay during this emergency. I don't know if that's still on. It was going to be planned for later this week. I'm not sure where they're going with it, but I was going to participate and present to them the costs that we presented to council a month ago, just what we had spent on things, plus the updated costs on the CDBG. If that's still on this week, I'll be just presenting those numbers. I just want to let council know that's what's going to happen in case you hear back from any of the county supervisors about that issue. And that's it.
Any questions for Luke? Your lights on, Bob?
Yeah,
Nope.
I was just getting geared up for my council comment.
Okay. Okay. Now we're at council comments. Mr. Whalen.
I have none. That took a lot of gearing up, but.
Lynn?
I wanted to report on the FCT meeting, but I honestly can't remember what we did because that was like August 19th, which is a really long time ago. So I'll just report that I attended, I represented the city, we got a grant, which I'm sure that you already know. Some of the funding that we received was approved, and there is no plan yet on the Measure C 2022 effort or 2024. So that's about all I can recall from that moment.
Vaughn?
Yes, I wanted to report I went to the Cal-Ren ID Board as an alternate on behalf of Lynn and representing the city. I think all we did was approve the budget, and so it was a pretty routine meeting, and it was pretty quick. I think we were done in 15 minutes. So wanted to report that. Oh, second, I wanted to thank Luke and Glenn Estes with Parks. This week is sort of 9/11 week. 9/11 is Friday, and students from Buchanan, I think students from Clovis Community College, they wanted to display flags and sort of honor that moment. And our staff was willing to work out something to try to assist so that way they can do their project at the same time as us allowing them to do that. And also the 9/11 Memorial Committee with Mrs. Borges, they're working with the Clovis Community College, and that's all in Clovis, and they all chose Clovis to do those presentations. So thank you for working with them. Let me see, my last one, I wanted to see if I get support from, or maybe with the staff as well. Can you help us allow the community to talk? I'm talking about the chamber and the issues with the chamber and their building. And I know that we received a report, but I think that the two parties may not be communicating well, and maybe we can assist and also be a mediator, because the thought is that we used to own it and we gave it to the chamber from our action, but just how can we play a role in assisting with that and getting a report and getting something more concrete? It may be premature because people may just be reacting from rumors and not facts, but how do we get it so that way we can get facts in front of the community? And if that's something in which you can help bring a report to us, if the council also will support that too. But I don't know where we stand. I don't know if we even have jurisdiction, but I think we can play a pivotal role in helping ease the concerns of those who want to preserve it to sort of what the chamber's plans are. And to put it here, I think will make it where everything's transparent. So that's sort of my request. Other than maybe what you have already presented to us in the Friday report or in an email, maybe doing that publicly and seeing where, if that allows questions to be tossed around.
Does this have some traction that we can potentially help with?
Well, we really don't have any purview over that building. What is happening now is remarkably similar to what happened in the early 80s when the city inherited that building from the county. There were some that wanted to preserve the building, but the city dumped quite a bit of money into it at that time. But there was the committee that set out to preserve the building never really gained traction and couldn't raise the funds to build it or to do anything to the building. And at that time, the solution was that after the city had dumped a lot of money into it, The chamber was willing to take it over and dump a lot more money into it, which they did, and they met all their obligations and occupied it for 30 years. But it got to the point where it was, it's either going to take a whole bunch more money dumped into it to try to make it ADA compliant and just usable. So the chamber is exploring options, and once again, we have a group that wants to preserve it, but there's not enough financial support to really just go out and preserve it, just to preserve it for, for preservation's sake. So the city doesn't have any interest in the building, and when I say interest, I mean legal interest in the building. I don't mean that we're not interested, but we don't have any interest in that building. It is the chamber's building. I know that they have not reached a conclusion as to what they're going to do, but they're exploring it. I also know that there is a group that wants to see it preserved, but I don't know that there's the traction to raise the funds to preserve it.
Thank you.
For the record, I have a financial interest with the building just next door, so unless we agenda items, I can conflict out, we need to be careful when we talk about that item, because I have to conflict out immediately.
Well, I'm just trying to see, maybe from the wisdom of those who have been here, more experience working with the community when there's conflicting community groups, what our role is, or if we shouldn't have a role.
I have a question. Should I step out? I'll declare a conflict.
Because I believe that without three of us, nothing comes before the council. So I'm trying to see if there's support to make it where we can be a part in it. My thing is, whatever it is, some have felt that there is a benefit that we have given, and so because of the building itself, and how do we sort of help massage and manage that, so that way, in the end, whatever the decision is, everybody feels like they had a say and they can kind of accept what it is that moves along.
So my view at this point is that any action by the council might be a little bit premature. I don't want to interfere in any negotiations that may be taking place in that area or for that building. And I don't think that we have any ownership interest in the building anymore. I think that we gave whatever ownership interest we had up. I think that I think it's smart just to let the private parties work it out, and then if there is something that we need to do to intervene in a way that's not going to be illegal or unethical, then perhaps maybe we can act as a catalyst in some way. I don't know what that would look like, but I'd rather that the parties just kind of work it out themselves right now. That's my view.
Yeah, I think sometimes we're not peacemakers. I think sometimes we make it more complicated because it becomes public, and it becomes public notice, and it becomes everyone wants to look at everything you have, and that changes the nature of a private negotiation, which is what they're doing right now. So I think that in cases like this, I think it's hard, and a council majority changes everything about the engagement. So I don't know that collectively there's anything we can do. I think I agree with Bob in this case, just because you've got land negotiations and debate and all of that. Now, would the city like to see an old building preserved? I don't know, maybe. I think that's an interesting question, but that question hasn't come to us in any way, I don't think, that I'm aware of. I mean, so I don't know we have a say in it quite yet, but my experience would say sometimes the public process makes these private negotiations work because they don't want to do it out loud. And we require them to do it out loud.
Yeah.
For sure. So I think I would agree with Bob.
Now, that sounds like sage wisdom. Let me get Jose.
Thank you for that.
I know.
You up.
You're conflicted about conflict. Go ahead. Jose, it's your turn.
Very conflicted. Okay. Just want to report out that I attended the North Kings GSA meeting, and we find ourselves in a time where we're not doing too much other than approving financial reports and stuff like that, and listening to all the just what reports regarding water availability coming down from the Kings River Basin, and what we're going to do about monitoring our wells that will be monitored throughout, and not that much activity going on right now. So that's about it.
Heavy lifting to get you.
Yeah. Now that we have that, it's been evaluated by the powers up in Sacramento, and they'll decide whether we did it right or not, and then people decide who's going to sue us and who. The heavy lifting is yet to come. The fights are yet to arrive, because we've done what needs to be done, but now it's one, did we do it right, and two, who will disagree with us? So that will be the heavy lifting.
Thank you, Jose. The only thing I have is I think everybody on council received an email from a council member in Torrance named Mike Griffiths, who's looking for resolutions from other cities about local control and maintaining local control and advocating for local control. Is there any, I don't see a reason not to do this. I mean, one of the reasons that we're having a lot of the problems that we have is because of unfunded mandates from the state or even our federal friends occasionally. Is this something that we're interested in doing as a group?
Just start a statewide organization of cities. That's all we do.
Called League of Cities?
Local Control League of Cities. Is he doing it related to the league, or like an independent initiative to do what was the resolution?
It appears that I just read this yesterday. It's California Cities for Local Control. It sounds like this may be an ad hoc group that they're looking to see if there's any traction on. Maybe what we'll do is maybe read it, and next week we'll maybe put it on the agenda for a discussion. I don't know.
The ask is only for a resolution to be
Correct.
passed by each council, just kind of reaffirming our position that we
prefer local control. Yeah. I will be more than happy. Wait, there's nothing on fire here.
Yeah.
That we had to get. I know. As soon as I was like, I'll send it to you so you can look at it, and send it to David also, just so you can peruse it. To me, it's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, with some resolutions, it's like yada yada. Thank you so much, and they just right. And it may not be a bad idea for us to reach out to the league and make sure that they're not entering into a minefield of some type.
I think that's a great idea. I sometimes we'll take a step that seems really easy for us to do, very consistent, and then something else happens that says, well, because you did this, now we want you to contribute to this political action committee that's going to be doing this thing, and then so I do want to obviously check with the league on it.
Yeah, I will send this to staff to look at, and if you guys can look at it, we'll make a discussion. Appointed.
Mayor, I am in support. I'm in alignment with you with regards to the gist of what the letter is saying. So
we just got to make sure there's no landmines
Yeah.
out there that we're not unaware of. Right. Okay, that's all I have. And if no one else has anything, we're going to be going into closed session. Is there anything to report out?
We're not asking for any action. It's just update on 2 items for you.
Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.